Hey Joe, you know what I'm really excited right now is we get to actually speak to a great panelist, and I'm so looking forward to chatting to them because we're going to glean from them, we're going to hear from them, and yeah, look, let me introduce them to you right now. Hey guys, so great to have you with us, and we're so grateful to you for taking time out of your schedules to be with us to dive into this question with us around the open generation. Hey, you guys are going to be up there, so for the sake of time, I'm just going to jump straight in. Okay, so here is my first question to you, and I'm going to whip around and ask each of you what your response is. Out of hearing, either Daniel unpacking it or even David at the beginning unpacking some of this data on the open generation, what's one thing that's kind of stood out to you that's grabbed your attention or even maybe changed the way that you've been thinking about this open generation? Naomi, I'm going to go to you first. What's that? What's that?
I think definitely the opportunity that we have as pastors, that it has to be from the top down in the local community where you're shepherding. This understanding that we have to lean in and not only listen to our teens, but find ways to empower them to do the work of the kingdom. And yeah, I think all of the efforts need to go into that space. And I'm speaking to myself first as a pastor in a local church. But even so, like working with kids that are even on probation and foster care in our communities, the value of empowering the teens of the local church to be part of the answer and the hope for
Mm.
kids in our communities that don't have stable homes. So many ways in which we can do that. So many avenues. It takes intentionality.
No, I mean, that's so great. I love that from the top down. Brilliant. Hey, Michael, what about you? What jumped out to you?
Yeah, thanks. Well, I was quite impressed and hopeful when I saw that really majority of youth really care about the world and believe that they can make a difference. I was struck by one slide, so today's team's motivation toward justice, where if you kind of just glance, kind of look at it, roughly about a quarter of the global youth. Really are justice motivated, and yet you got a lot more percentage amongst the marginalized youth, among the marginalized communities. That I think somewhere around two-thirds, I think, really are justice motivated, and I think that difference is really where we can glean some insight.
Yeah, there's a great insight and opportunity into there, right? That's incredible. I'm gonna flick to you, Colin. What stood out to you, mate?
I really enjoyed Michaela when she was interviewing Danielle, and she said that about adults making decisions for them, for young people today, and it brought me back to an experience in Northern Ireland where I had some interns come from Northern Ireland and Belfast. They came to Canada and they worked with us in government housing neighborhoods for a summer. They went back to Northern Ireland and they wanted to do the same kind of work we were doing. Um, and I actually had been in Belfast, and they brought their friends together. This is about 6 months later, 8 months later, to talk to me and ask questions. And after about an hour, I realized they really wanted to do this work. So I said, "Why aren't you doing it? Like, what's stopping you?" And they said, "Well, our pastors, they just don't agree with it. They won't give us their permission." And my
Mm.
response to them was, "You don't need your pastor's permission. Jesus has given you permission. Do it. Go out and do it."
Yes.
And I found that as an older adult, that we got to get out of the way. And we're not
Mm.
going to lead the motivators. We have to walk alongside of the motivators. And they kind of just need our permission to go out and do it. So I'm an old guy. I'm with Cal here. I'm not 66. I'm 58. But the older I get, the more I realize my job is to be a hinge in a door, not to be the door that shuts on them. I'm the hinge that can open doors to allow our younger generation to just thrive in the calling that
Yeah,
Jesus has given them. So we need to bless them. We need to walk along them and resource them and let them, my people, go. Let them go and see what they can
so
do.
good. So good, Colin. That's such a great image, the hinge. I love it. I love it. Hey, Pam, welcome. What about you? What stood out to you?
Thank you. But just hearing Colin is getting me fired up. So for me, being able to see the data and seeing this information come to life is just really reaffirming what we already know to be true at World Vision, what we advocate for. So my team at World Vision, we currently are working with Ignite, which is a curriculum that we are actually partnering with this particular demographic population, to empower them to be biblical, to empower them to be students with a biblical worldview and become global leaders. And so for me to see this is just so reaffirming, because we've heard the stories, incredible stories from the head of schools. We've heard the testimonies from the students themselves. And so to actually have the data in front of me is like, yes, we are on the right track. So it just further reaffirms what we believe at World Vision.
That's so great, Pam. Hey, speaking of Ignite, Michael, I know that you had a fair bit to do with that, and being in the education sector, I mean, it was incredibly disrupted during COVID, and we'll probably see the impacts of that for many years to come. In fact, we can't even tell, right? But I'm just curious, what are you seeing as new issues emerging in the open generation after that real disruption to the education system? And what can we be doing to posture ourselves to help young people with some of those issues that are emerging?
Yeah, thanks for the question. I think let me frame it this way. This generation of young people have experienced a lot of difficulties and challenges even prior to the pandemic. And I think pandemic just really heightened all these struggles. And one of the major struggles is a sense of isolation. So you take prior to pandemic, there's a pressure of high academic achieving, or for the well-resourced students, but then for the marginalized students or under-resourced students, they deal with all sorts of other issues where they feel disconnected. So the idea that students are so connected to their phone because they're so hungry for connections, and you see that in the school setting, the structure is really not conducive for real meaningful connections. When pandemic hits, that is just goes berserk, right? And just goes out to the nth degree. And so when we begin to come back to the school, they're seeking for that connection. But here's a challenge. Like we say we come back to the normal. I just said that normal wasn't really great for them either in the beginning. So coming back just to do the same old thing is not going to do any good. So what we're trying to do is create connection and creating a sort of a community of belonging so that they can belong to each other and connect with one another. But there's also another thing is that just having relational connection without sense of purpose, without sense of direction, it's just going to create tremendous confusion. Second point, real quick, I know we're short on time, but the idea is that this educational system, what I think is that we create a system that we do things to students. And so now we do things to students right now, the pandemic and all the sort of things that they're seeing on TV, these things that they experience in their neighborhood, it's really outside of their control. So that creates even more sense of anxiety. So the question right now is how can we put them into the driver's seat to create some sort of a sense of ability to have a say about their destiny. So that's what I'm seeing right now.
Oh, Michael, that is so powerful. I love that. How do we put them into the driver's seat? And we could just sit and unpack that for hours. I'm sure that's incredible. Hey, thank you. Pam, I know that World Vision, you guys have invested in the next generations for years, and it's been an intentional, kind of investment. And in your role in working in World Vision and working with this next generation, can you tell me what insights have you had that you've seen that's different in this open generation coming up to maybe some generations before? And in those insights, what can we be learning as we posture ourselves to listen to them?
So there's a reason why we're calling this generation the open generation. They're optimistic about the future. They're hungry to lead. They're hungry to see change. And so that perspective that they have, that they want to see the evidence of Christianity. They want to see that Christ is real before they can claim his evidence and relevance. So this generation, even if you look at the history of World Vision in the 70 plus years we've been in service to population that are experiencing poverty, we see that our approach and engage and how we engage the world has completely shifted. We used to give because that was the noble thing to do. And we used to, it was a good thing to do. It's a feel good thing, and it's a right thing to do. But we have also not recently, but we have over the years have progressed into becoming more empathetic and curious about those that we are lending our help to. Like, how can we actually become part of the solution? How can we get in our hands dirty and help come alongside what is already going on, the work that God is already doing in those community, and letting that community lead out. And so that is the perfect representation of what this generation, the open generation, is doing, because they're more collaborative, and they're more sensitive about how they come alongside to help a community. They want to ask the questions like, what does the community need before we just pour all of our resources, before we go paint a building in Mexico? Like, do the natives want the building painted? Is that what is meaningful to them in this moment? And so we've seen that transformation, and that this open generation is a perfect example of where we are now as an organization.
Thanks, Pam. I love that you just called out, we've got to let them lead. And you know what that is? That's so scary for us that are older, because that's actually called relinquishing control, and we all know as leaders, control is an illusion, but we try and hang on to it, don't we? Hey, Noemi, I want to throw to you. I know that you founded Brave Global, which really actually focuses in on vulnerable girls, especially that have either coming out of the foster system or have been victims of abuse. And so I want to throw to you and just ask the question: what do you see? Even through your intentional efforts with engaging with those that are coming out of that marginalized, vulnerable space, where your intentional efforts have led to resilience. And what do we as leaders need to glean and learn from that in terms of seeing what that resilience looks like and how it's coming out in those teens you work with?
Well, the girls that we actually work with as an organization are in the foster care system. So their age is 12 to 18. And
Wow.
so what we're doing is serving as a preventative to human trafficking, because about almost 10 years ago, we learned that in the LA area and even throughout the states, anywhere from 60 to over 80% of girls that are trafficked were in the foster care system. So
Wow.
the intentionality of bringing community to these girls, or bringing them into a space where they get to hear the stories of women who have either been trafficked, suffered abandonment, abuse, but now are resilient. Now they are strong. They've formed a future. They've made decisions that have set them up for stability, and are healed and are whole emotionally. They've gone through process, provides a lens of hope for these beautiful girls. And it also provides a source of inspiration for a lot of the choices and decisions that they're making presently. So what we get in relationship with foster care and probation are the reports of what the interaction with the local church has provided them with, which is their attitude shifts towards their education, towards authority, and even towards their own future. We help them see what some of those red flags are from those who would be trying to manipulate, control them, or put them in situations that we want to draw them away from. So we're doing this work as a preventative work for girls that are in foster care before they even exit the system. And there's a huge need for the church to join in collaboration with church and state. So if anybody wants more information, they can reach out.
No, that's so powerful, and I love that. That really is an incredible picture of community at work, where it can just help transform people's thinking, their minds, how they're operating, and a great space for us to actually engage in. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing. Hey, Colin, let me come to you for a moment. I know with you and Connect Ministries, you also work with the marginalised and vulnerable. My question to you as well is how have you seen, especially some of the stats we're seeing coming out of this open generation that's connected faith and where young people are thinking and going and moving to and really wanting to be unleashed? Where have you kind of seen that play out And what can we learn from that, from an open generation wanting to activate their faith in a really meaningful way?
Sure. I think open generation is something that's been around for years and years and years and years. If you look at major movements, even church revivals, they say 6 out of the 9 major movements were started by college students or younger. So it seems like when
Wow.
God wants to start a movement, he calls young people. You look at Iran right now, what's going on with the murder of Masa Amini, and it's young people, it's teenage girls taking off the headscarves and protesting. The Arab uprising, it was all young people. It's young people have this in their DNA, and I think it's exciting. They've got this drive in them. They're modern day prophets, and we need to listen to them. In my experiences, whenever there's a need in one of our neighborhoods, for example, there's a hotel that was transformed into a shelter for refugees, 20 minutes from my home. And I went into this hotel and I pray all the time when I go in these circumstances, your kingdom come, your will be done here, right here in this hotel. What does that look like? And I just pray. And then I have the opportunity to go out and speak at churches. I just challenge people, get involved. Here's an opportunity, sign up, meet with me, and we're going to go in here and we're going to love on these people. And I'll tell you something, it's always young people that sign up. Always. 99% are college or younger. So it's quite easy, guys and ladies, leaders. They're there, right? The harvest fields are ripe and the workers are there. They're all young people. What an opportunity. So yeah, young people, they want to step up to the plate. They just need a playing field.
So I love that, Colin. And you're right. Like, I couldn't agree more. That historical picture of movements always starting with a young person. It's so true.
The
And just
disciples of
reminds
Jesus,
us.
the ones he called, they were
Yep.
young people. Jesus was a
Yep.
youth pastor.
Exactly. It's so good. It's so good. And that's a great reminder to us all as leaders that we need to be investing intentionally, giving platform, giving voice, and really actually unleashing. Hey guys, I love the fact that we've all given quite, some incredible insights that's really hopeful, which is awesome. And you could look at some of this data, and as we unpack it, there are things that definitely will concern us. There are things that we'll look at and think, oh, what do we need to change? What do we need to do? But let me quickly whip around. I want to hear what gives you hope as you look at the open generation. Naomi, can I start with you?
I think their hunger for what God can do through the church is important, and it's something we need to lean into. And I think it's giving what they are asking for, which is encouragement and support. So it's like open hands, like, come on, like, what do you need so we can help you do this? Like, encourage them to lead it, encourage them. And I think what's beautiful is that it doesn't have to be perfect, and it doesn't have to look a certain way. It doesn't have to be spectacular. It's just people living on mission and young people being encouraged and released to do it. Like, so yeah, let's empower these young kids.
Beautiful. Pam, what brings you hope?
What brings me hope is that this open generation, they're not saying no to God. So that just gets me excited that they just are calling us out as the church, like, hey, what does Jesus look like in the marginalized places around the world? So I think when we look at the data that 63% were convicted about, doing something about it, and only 43% had the confidence. So how we bridge that gap, I think, is going to be so important for us as the church as a whole, that multi-generational engagement of coming alongside, like what Colin was saying, and saying, hey, what is in your heart? What is your dream? What do you see? And how can I come alongside, whether it's financially or walk with you? How can I offer my expertise and what you are already seeing and dreaming about? I think it's so incredible that they're open. Like, we just have to apply ourselves and be available for the next generation to see a change and impact for Jesus. So that gives me major hope, Nadi.
Thank you, Pam. That's awesome. Michael, what brings you hope?
What brings me hope is every day I come to work with young people and seeing that they really want to connect and want to do something, and they want to be part of something bigger than themselves. I think we place a lot of assumptions about young people, about immaturity and all that. School tend to have the infantizing effect on our students, and our job is to to really open up their latent capacity to make a difference. How can we invite them into the work that's already going on? How can we make space for them to create new things and do new things? Our school, we invited students, invite two representatives from the student body to join our school board to make significant decisions.
Wow.
That's just one way to do this, to really put our money where our mouth is. And so, and our young people are highly relational. They don't As we get older, we see things in abstraction. We think about issues here, issues there, but what they see is a real human face behind those things. And I think that's what Jesus is calling us to see, that poverty is not just this abstract issue, it's a real human being. When you're talking about issues of abortion or gender and all that, we're talking about real human beings. So our students and young people are slow to pass quick judgment, but really try to get quick at unknowing the humanity behind those things. We need to learn from them.
So awesome, Michael. Thank you. And finally, Colin, what brings you hope?
I came across a cartoon recently. It was pretty funny. It was a picture of Jesus knocking on the door of a church, and everybody was on the other side of the door trying to stop him from coming in. And the caption was, "Don't let him in. He may change everything, or he will change everything." And I think that's our young people. I mean, I really think they get it. They get the gospel's bigger than a personal thing. They get the gospel as the beginning of a revolution where, we come to know Jesus and he fills us with his spirit for a purpose, which is to bring the kingdom of God on earth as it is in heaven. And so that really excites me about young people. And I can't help but think of Neil Postman's quote when he says, "Children are the living messages we send to a future we will not see." We can change that. The teenagers are the teenagers are the living messages we send to a future we will not see. I'm 58. I'm committed to create a church for my great grandchildren, and I don't even have any yet. In fact, I don't even have any grandchildren yet. But so I see this generation of young people, and I'm so excited. I mean, we've got to walk alongside of them. Someone mentioned in the chat, giving up control, but will they go crazy type of thing. I trust the Holy Spirit. I trust that Jesus is the head of the church. And I am no better than young people are, so what gives me the authority over them? But what we can do is walk alongside of each other, and the Spirit of God will speak to each other. And through the wisdom of experience, we can help shape. But boy, they shape me. They keep me sharp. I'll tell you that much now. They keep me sharp.
I love it, Colin. Hey, you're getting asked for a copy of that cartoon in the chat, so maybe you can see if you can find it and jump on in there.
Who do I give that to?
Hey, let me thank each and every one of you for your time. Let me thank you for your great insights, and you guys are such incredible examples, incredible leaders, and your passion for the next generation is contagious. So thank you so much for being with us.